Thank you. In paying tribute to his legacy, the KIYAMA movement today is launching what we deem to be the war on ignorance. The motto of the KIYAMA movement is forget about them, think about us, FATO for short, which means let us not get so consumed by the racism that plague each of us every day to the extent that we develop a paralysis of the will in confronting some of the ills that we face in our own communities. In other words, I'm fond of asking the question, what does littering have to do with racism? The war on ignorance was developed for the express purpose of challenging select behavior in the broader black community that serves to impede the collective advancement of black people. In this war, ignorance has been deemed the enemy. While the principal target of this effort is the youth and young adults, we recognize that this movement can be beneficial to every member of our community. Thus, we strongly encourage individuals of all ages and socioeconomic levels to partake in this effort. We can all be proud and which can serve as models for other communities. Thank you.
Please, let's give Michael another well-deserved round of applause. I'd just like to say for the record that I think that Mike has one of the brightest minds in the civil rights movement, not only here locally, but nationally. He's one of the brightest guys that I've come across, and it's amazing that I just came back from Florida, and Roger Van has just been selected the national COO of the NAACP now. And I remember that, I guess Mike, myself, and Roger have been working together since 1987, so 23 years. So I know Mike has been in the struggle for a long time. And he's the type of guy that has always been on the pulse of the movement. And he's always a guy that I will always use as an advisor in anything that I do in the civil rights movement. And we have other bright minds. New Haven is a great training ground for civil rights movement. It's always been a great training ground. And once again, this is cutting-edge information, cutting-edge movement that I think that is extremely important in the betterment of our people. I just wanted to say real quickly, as we deal with this word ignorance, as the core of the word is to ignore. And as a people, we ignore what is extremely important. And I think that one of the things that we need to do is be very information oriented. Because if you don't have the information, that puts you at an extreme disadvantage. And it's very ironic also that we're in this particular community, the Dixell community. For a lot of our people came from the South to come to the North for work. Close proximity to the factory, which was Winchester. And there was a lot of jobs. And that's what we came up here for, the jobs. From North Carolina, South Carolina. I know a lot of individuals from this particular area from North Carolina and South Carolina. And, you know, throughout America, people came up here to work in the factories, Sikorsky, Pratt and Whitney. And when young people would graduate, I know everyone couldn't go to college or whatever, but you could leave. When I came back from school, all my buddies had jobs at Sikorsky, Pratt and Whitney, Winchester, and they were doing pretty good. And then, as you know, the factories all closed down, and now you have these young people just aimlessly roaming our community. And pretty much, a lot of them started into this gang thing, and we started seeing it extremely getting influence in our community in the 80s, and then moving into the early 90s, and that's when we started seeing the violence and the crack coming into our communities. And now we're seeing young people 12, 13, 14 with guns, and we've never seen anything like this before. And I think that, once again, we have to understand the information, understand why we came here, what type of plan and strategy that our community had at that particular time, and understand that the paradigms have changed. And we have to be prepared for the paradigm change. This is an information era of the United States and globally. And it's extremely important that we have individuals like Mike and other individuals in the community collectively coming together to deal with the ignorance in our community. We have to stop ignoring and dealing with these major subject matters, not only here locally, statewide, and nationally. I just wanted to say that the state conference of the NAACP and also as a national board member of the NAACP, I will make sure that this is a priority and that we strive to implement what Brother Mike is striving to do. Thank you very much for having me say this.
We're lucky to have Scott. Scott actually is the leader of the state conference of the year. Am I right, brother? For the NAACP,
yes, sir.
the national. So, round of applause for Scott and his efforts here. Next, I'm going to call up the principal of Hampton High School, good friend of mine, Gary Highsmith. You all know him. Give a round of applause, Gary.
Just so for the record, you know, we're still together. We'll never be broken. It's always good to talk to Mike because you have to have your A game every time you talk to Mike.
Absolutely.
You can't come short because you leave even shorter after dealing with Mike. Also, obviously, my man Kermit Carolina. We've been struggling for a long time in this community, and we're just happy that we're at this point where we have something that we won't need to go to meetings all the time. We won't get paralyzed by the meetings. We'll actually be better people. So let me stick to the rule of the 5 Bs. We all know what that is. Be brief, brother, be brief. So that's what we'll do this afternoon, this evening. Black men have to be men. With the title of manhood comes a tremendous responsibility, one that requires a constant dedication to becoming better each and every day. While no one can discount the role that race plays in American society, we are at a time now when the most important thing for black men to do is to be entirely self-reflective and to make every effort to do more and be more. There's absolutely no denying that our children need 2 parents all of the time. Putting a check in the mail, seeing our kids on the weekends, buying clothes or sneakers on occasion is necessary but insufficient. Our kids need us all of the time. We must make our children the absolute priority in our lives. To do anything less perpetuates a horrible cycle of educational underachievement, community dysfunction, high incarceration rates for black males, and general reckless behavior. No hesitation or no doubt is that we must hold a vast and sturdy mirror up to ourselves, to our behaviors, to our shortcomings, and vow to disassociate ourselves from such nonsense. We're supposed to be better than we are, but we can never be better without holding ourselves entirely responsible for our behaviors and for our destiny. All the men in this room, I have no doubt, have suffered and sacrificed. From personal experience, I can tell you that my childhood was not easy. My father wasn't involved in my life, and my mother died when I was 13. Yet, that was no excuse for me to be a problem in my community. Tough circumstances bring about one of 2 outcomes. They either make you or they break you. Irrespective of where we are at this point in our lives, if we have children, we have to take care of them. That's a non-negotiable. Clearly, what we're proposing will be difficult for many people to take, but all wounds have to hurt before they heal. And while black men certainly do not have the market cornered on poor fatherhood, there are poor fathers in every community. Fatherlessness in our community exacts a much higher price than it does in others. What we're advocating is both political and apolitical, spiritual but not religious, difficult but not impossible. The truth is, black men have not been good enough. We need to be better, and we can get better by just trying, earnestly trying to be better. Because that is a great start, because the journey to self-improvement, getting a high school diploma if you don't have one, getting additional job training, if you hold a job, spending more time with your kids, honoring commitments you make to them, going to report card conferences, meeting with teachers, reading meaningful literature, etc. That journey in and of itself makes you better. It's up to us now. If we don't do something now, right now, we'll lose an entire generation of black children. We can no longer point a finger. The finger has to be pointed inward. Clearly there are problems that are outside of our control, but what we can't control, we must control. Thank you.
followed by Scott Marks. Just get me ready.
Thank you, Michael, and good evening. I'm a little taken aback. I wasn't prepared to speak to you, but on this issue, I don't need a lot of preparation. We at the New Haven Family Alliance realized over a decade ago that we needed to support the fathers in our community who were dead broke, not dead beat, who were motivated and involved in the lives of their children, but in a way that wasn't always visible to our community, and who had a desire to be nurturing, caring, loving parents. And at that time, we were doing this work pretty much alone. And concerns were that, are we taking away resources from deserving, struggling, single female heads of household? We worked very hard not to do that. So we continue to support fathers who are invested in the lives of their children. 4 years ago, we took on the Street Outreach Worker Youth Gun Violence Prevention Intervention Program. We learned very early, actually we knew before we took this on, that the role of father was central to what was happening with our young men in our community. Either their absence or their idealized selves. And I've said to people in our community, and I will continue to say that, we don't lack mentors. There are mentors in our neighborhoods. They're the wrong ones most of the time. And so it's these kinds of gatherings, this kind of call to action that I welcome in our work. We have embraced the KIYAMA principles. We are seeking ways to incorporate the KIYAMA principles in our work with fathers and in our work with young men. We were looking for a way to articulate what it is that our young men should strive to be. And it was these principles, Michael, that spelled that out so clearly. And not just for our young boys, but for our young girls as well, because they too are in a crisis. And one thing that these principles help us do is to articulate for these young girls what they ought to expect in the young men in their lives. And so again, I welcome this, this movement, and we are 100% KIYAMA.
Very good. For the Scott Marks.
I definitely taking the lead from my principal and seeing Mike, Kermit, and Gary in this room today, and I know they have been together, which expresses that they've been able to follow some of these principles for, I seen them coming up. I remember being at a Board of Education meeting, and there was a group of black men in all black, and they stormed that room, and I was like, this is a takeover. I know it is. First I seen of this, Mike was on somewhere in our neighborhood, and he pulled it out and gave me a copy. And the first thing I did was found myself in these principles. A whole lot of stuff on there, I was guilty. And I'm telling you, it works, because immediately, if you read it and you put it in your heart, it changes you. Because I watch myself to make sure that we don't allow that to happen. We are especially blessed today to actually be doing this on a day to recognize one of the most powerful leaders, and I'm a Christian and I love King, but Malcolm X sort of pushes a real button for me. And I think that we're here today. When I walked in this room, I seen hope, and it made me think about the sleeping giant. And as soon as Mike showed me, the first thing I wanted to do, let's make this into an organization. He said, no, wait, brother, hold up. Organization join movements. This is a movement. And I do believe that one thing that we have to face in our community, we got to take responsibility for making ourselves better. And in order to build anything, there must be a foundation. And anything that we do, if we don't practice these principles, it is highly likely that we will not have success. I heard a lot of talk today, and I hear it everywhere I go, about men and fathers stepping up, the world as it should be. Can I get an amen? I got one at least. The world as it is that women every day rub the heads of those men who will become fathers. So we got to make sure that we do everything that we can to give blood to where the wound is. And right now, our women suffer because we're not in our place. So I thank God for this opportunity to be a part of this movement. And I really believe that we are on to something here. This changes you if you follow it. Thank you.
I want to call up Lisa. Are we ready? Lisa Hopkins. Lisa Hopkins. By the way, Scott and Lisa have been very